Chapter 1: The Story. Country music is built on stories. Country music was built on one thing: storytelling. In a country song, you can tell a whole book's worth of a story in 3 to 4 minutes or less. So let's talk about stories. A story is where a country song begins. 1. Start with a story. One of the most famous phrases in country music, coined by the Nashville Songwriters Association International, NSAI, is, "It all begins with a song." But what does a song begin with? A story. The first step to writing any country song is to think of a story you want to tell and then to tell it with your song. Songs are such a special way to tell stories because every art form essentially does this. Paintings tell stories. Poems tell stories. Dances tell stories. Songs do it too, and by becoming a country artist, you are gaining the power to tell your own story too. 2. Tell your personal stories. We all have stories we tell about our lives: first dates, prom nights, game-winning catches, profound conversations with our grandparents. If it's worth telling, it's worth writing about. It can be a story that happened to you as a child or a story that happened yesterday. You can draw from literally any story you have ever lived through. Even if the story is too detailed or outlandish to tell in song form, you can still think about the incident and remember exactly how you were feeling in that moment. Drawing from a feeling is a great way to create a song. 3. Tell your friends' stories. A common misconception about music in general is that you have to write only about things that have happened to you personally. This, however, is far from the truth. If your friend has a great story to tell, but they aren't willing to write about it, why not write about it yourself? It can be something that has affected you personally through them, or a story of a failed relationship they had, or a crazy night they had that you had nothing to do with whatsoever. Inspiration is everywhere. It could even be just one sentence they say that sparks an idea. Some days you write the song, some days you live it. 4. If it comes down to staying home and writing or going out and having fun, go out. You don't gain life experience without going out and experiencing life. If you don't go out and try to experience the real world, you'll never have anything to write about. More than that, you'll never have anything to write about that people believe you actually know about. One of the ways my friends often convince me to go out with them is to say, "But if you don't come, what are you going to write about tomorrow?" 9 times out of 10, it works on me, and I always end up with a new story to tell and a new song idea. Have you ever noticed that so many country songs talk about beer? That's because the writers make sure to allow themselves to go out and have a good time. If you allow yourself to go out and live the song almost writes itself the next day or the day you decide to write the story. Once again, even if you don't write a song about that exact night or memory, you can certainly write about the feeling you felt while you were making that memory. 5. Say yes as often as possible. If someone invites you to a party, go. If someone invites you on a date, go. If someone asks you to dance, dance. The more you say yes to, the more you experience, and the more you experience, the more you have to write about. A yes is not just a yes to one experience, it's a yes to a memory, a good time, a fun story to tell your grandkids. The more stories you can experience, the bigger and more exciting of a life you will live, regardless of whether or not you get a song idea out of it. So say yes. As long as it's not a dangerous yes, say yes. You will never regret it. 6. Travel as often as possible. There's so much perspective to be gained from leaving town. There are a million country songs about small towns, and a lot of times that's because the writer sees their town in a new light once they leave and come back. When you travel, don't just look for inspiration in the towns you visit, but look for inspiration in your own hometown when you get back. People watching and sightseeing are great inspiration. Think about people you meet while traveling, but even just people you see that fascinate or interest you. Think about them and their story, or what their story might be. Inspiration is everywhere. Yes, everywhere. 7. Write what you see. There is a very simple rule to writing country songs: write what you see. Country music is based more on concrete details than thoughts, feelings, and concepts. And these concrete details give your song color and personality. If you see something that sparks any kind of inspiration whatsoever, even if it's just a word you like, write it down. If you see something that is beautiful or funny or exciting or incredible, write it down. The key is whatever you see, it is bound to hold something special if you look at it hard enough. So, in order to see things, you have to really see things, not just look at them. You have to study them, pay attention to them, look at the details. If you see something but don't really see it, it means nothing. If you see something and really see it, study its details and intricacies and purpose, you can write something absolutely awesome about it. 8. Watch TV. Yes, even reality TV. Even though it might not be actual reality, they are technically real people and they have stories that can be written about, so write about them. TV holds stories just like real life holds stories. You can be on the job at all times as long as you have your creative brain on at all times and are paying attention to your surroundings, or in this case, what you're watching. Creative jobs are special like that because you can be working even when you're watching TV or movies. In fact, some songwriters even watch certain TV shows for the sole purpose of looking for ideas when they're stuck with writer's block. If you're looking for some country music idea shows, try watching anything on CMT or any show that seems to have country Southern characters. This is especially helpful if you're not as Southern and aren't quite as familiar with Southern culture, but still love country music and want to write songs. Consider watching these shows your homework. Pretty fun homework, right? 9. Watch movies. On the contrary to reality TV, they might not be real characters, but they have real feelings that real people feel. Study those feelings and write about them. Also, it's fun to play a song live and tell the crowd you got the idea from a certain movie that they all know about and love. It will give you something in common with your audience, something they can talk to you about when they meet you. 10. Listen to podcasts. Podcasts are a relatively newly popular phenomenon, but they are absolutely full of wise perspectives and quotes. There are plenty of podcasts to choose from, so find a few podcasts you enjoy listening to and listen to them regularly. When you listen, take notes. When someone says something you resonate with, write it down. And when someone says something that sparks a song idea, pause the podcast altogether to think about and flesh out the song idea, at least a little bit. If you let an idea pass you by without thinking about it deeply enough, it might lose its energy and you might never want to come back to it. So, when someone says something that sparks your songwriting brain, let it sink in before you continue listening. It's also great to just sit and listen to a podcast with a notebook handy instead of having to look for one as soon as you hear something you like. It's a helpful practice because it's similar to listening to a song. You want to paint a picture and a scenario for your listeners just like podcasts hosts want to do. So you can study what they do and say to make you feel like you're living in a different place or time or story, and then try to incorporate that skill into your own music. 11. Read, read, read. This might come as a shock, but here's some good news. Watching TV and movies, listening to podcasts, and reading can all be considered working when it comes to being a songwriter. Although you might not be writing the song at that moment, you can be gathering ideas from the characters, their stories, their hometowns, and more. Always be on the lookout for things you could use in a song. Even if you just see a word or a phrase that you like, try to think about it more deeply and see how you could turn it into a song. The key is to always be paying attention and on the lookout for things that could spark a song idea. Country songs are based on real life and real people's feelings, so reading autobiographies, memoirs, and self-help books are especially good for sparking good country song ideas. 12. Listen to other country songs. In many businesses, other people in the same field are competition. This is absolutely not the case in the country music world. 1. Southern people, country musicians are naturally down-to-earth and friendly people, so competition is not normally a factor. And 2, country musicians are constantly listening to and supporting each other's music. This is so important. Country musicians are always paying attention to and supporting each other. And this means they listen to each other. Even if you aren't listening to your peers in the up-and-coming country music industry, you can listen to other country music in general, meaning the old school music is included.